Greetings, everyone, and welcome once more. Hi, Pathinder and Dracovin, here at the Dracovin Empire, and are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion? Yep, we're heading back into that Pathfinder world, this time to learn about something different. This is the first of some videos I'm going to be talking about specific topics. I always talk about ancestries and countries. Today we're learning about individuals. I'll do other videos similar to this. But today, we're going to learn about Tar-Baphon, the Whispering Tyrant, the great Lich Lord, enemy to Aradin himself, conqueror of all of Ustalav, great overlord. Yes, the Whispering Tyrant. Are you ready to dive back into the horror of Ustalav, into the horrors of Vastin, into the power of the great Lich Lord himself? Well, you are. Take my hand and come with me as I drive you to some places you could look at. There are certainly two directions you could go. First off, Mythic Realms does a very good job of establishing the character himself. But if you want to learn more about him particularly, there are two adventure paths. Count them, two adventure paths that I can sell you on. The first off is, of course, Carrion Crown. Carrion Crown has a bunch of information about the Whispering Tyrant and his servants, some of which I will talk about today. Cough, cough, whispering away, cough, cough. And of course then, Tyrant's Grasp Adventure Path, Tyrant's Grasp, which deals with him getting free! Yay! And then if you want some updates for 2nd edition, of course, the World Guide, and, in fact, the NPC Core puts a little bit of information too. So that does include a little bit of stuff when it comes to talking about, the GM Core, I'm sorry. With what's going on in the Age of Lost Omens, more than just the World Guide. It does have some things. Not a lot, but really the World Guide is going to be your bigger of the two here, but you can do it. So who is Tar-Baphon? Who is this individual? Who is this great lich? Well, he was a powerful wizard king. He wasn't always a lich. He ruled over much of central Avastian for a long period of time during the 9th century of AR. Aradin killed him. He became a lich. He returned. Conquered Ustalav. He basically created another regime. He was defeated. Imprisoned. And now, once again, he is free. But he was also, and he did some really bad stuff. He was also defeated, and now he just mulls about rebuilding his power on the Isle of Terror in the middle of Lake Incarthen. So he's gathering his forces, gathering his influence, preparing to be the great threat he once was. He may have been defeated, his plans may have been ended for now, but he is not gone, he is still incredibly powerful, and he understands he has time. He's an undead, he's immortal, he can make plans that last centuries. Centuries. His original birth was 837 AR. He was only 59 when he died. 896. And then he became a lich and has been a lich for thousands of years. He is of Kelid descent. But he is also now, I will mention, a mythic lich. So we're just getting mythic powers back into Golarion. And he is a mythic one. So keep that in mind too. He is much more than just a normal lich. He has incredible deep powers. He is a demigod almost. That's what mythic characters are. They are near demigods. And so think of that when you think about Tar-Baphon. And we're going to talk about why he is so powerful, why he is so dangerous. Let's look to his first early history. His rise of Tar-Baphon. Rise of him as a great warrior. So Tar-Baphon, when he was born, it was in lands which would become Ustalav. But what we know about his time as a mortal is shrouded in mystery. We knew that it was the shores of Lake Incarthen that he grew up, and then we knew he dived into necromancy. We also know that in 861 is the first time we see a major point in history about what he was doing. As a mortal, he conquered the city of Crestilion on Imter Island, in the center of Lake Incarthen, from the Golden Slopes of Aradin. He renamed the city there Zin Grafar, and gave the island its name that still holds today, the Island of Terror. Singrethar being the Golden City of the Dead, located in the island. His metropolis turned to necropolis. So, in 872, he discovered a thinness of the plains on the Isle of Terror. He grew in power. And that's when he sought Cenotaph, which was the resting place of the Rune Lord Zuath. Basically, I think I've, in other videos, talked about the Thessalonians, a great empire of old that fell during the same time as the Atlantean Empire during the Earthfall. So an ancient empire. They had Rune Lords that were each matched to one of these schools of magic. And of course, I'm going to tell you, Sutoth, Gluttony, Necromancer. So of course, Cenotaph is a bastion necromancer. So, he managed to find it and unlock the necromantic powers of the sleeping Rune Lord. He was successful in 880. 8 years of ambition, claiming him a great power, the power of a Rune Lord. With his power, he claimed the rest of the Isle of Terror for himself, from the Black Dragon Karmamos, who had been controlling the rest of the island in 881. Karmatos is an undead dragon now, still exists. A Ravener, a type of undead dragon. She still is on the Isle, but Tar-Baphon has driven her back. So keep in mind that she's still there, plans to overthrow him. You know, she was beaten once as a mortal dragon by him, and now, all these millennia later, also as a undead dragon. You know, she doesn't get a lot there. So, with this new power, new control of his island that he's claimed as his home, he wanted to conquer the world. He recruited the orcs of the Hold, and created an army of undead along with them to invade all of Vasti. This attracted Eredin's attention. Tar-Baphon sought an immortality. Remember, he's still a lich. He's undead and effectively immortal. But he is still mortal in ways. He can still be defeated. He can still be killed. His phylactery can still be destroyed. He wanted to go beyond that. He wanted to be immortal and unkillable. He also looked down, seeking that immortality, Tar-Baphon, on Aradin, last Aslan. Basically, for not having ascended to godhood on his own, but relied on something like the Starstone to ascend. And Aradin, for his all things, witnessed firsthand the brutal regime of the Rune Lords in Thassalon. He didn't want to see a Rune Lord return to the world, and such a child return. And that's why Aradin set himself as an enemy to Tar-Baphon. Tar-Baphon came up with a trap to kill a god. A trap he called the Well of Sorrows. It was designed by him to trap the god Aradin. Unfortunately, he never got to use it. He tried it, but the conflict ended when Aradin killed Tar-Baphon, the Wizard King, on the Isle of Terror in a mighty battle in 896. He buried Tar-Baphon's corpse in the isle, thinking him dead. This was Tar-Baphon's plan all along. He would die at the hands of a god, and in doing so, would absorb some of that power, to rise as a great lich, one of incomparable power. He had gained arcane knowledge, deep within necromancy, greater than any living mortal and living existing being as it was. But now, he would ascend to a lich greater than any lich. The touch and slaying of a god would allow him to do this. So his corpse was retrieved by his followers and reburied in his birthplace. And then he returned. Tar-Baphon rose once more. We see him return in 3203 about 2,500 years later. He used the power of his great organization, the Whispering Way, to return to unlife as a lich, in a grand ritual that maybe took that 2,500 years for them finally to do. In an ancient tome, Whispers of the Immortal, purportedly written by one of his disciples, it documents his transition into undeath. This document, though, there's doubts about it. It is written by someone that was a direct servant of Tar-Baphon and therefore might want to embellish their master's rise to greatness. So there's doubts about its authenticity, but regardless, he rose as a lich, a very powerful mythic lich. He wanted revenge against Eredin. As much as he used Eredin, and could foresee his most likely death against Eredin, if he defeated Eredin, all the better. But he was ready for his death. Still, Eredin did kill him, and revenge would be a very tasty dish. So he wanted to draw Eredin to him again. After this 2,500 years, Eredin did not take up a challenge with him. He did not. So now is when he renames himself the Whispering Tyrant. And he unified the orcs of Belkazin under his rule and used them to conquer Ustalar. Basically, the old orcs that he had used in his army to conquer, he once again came to them and used them. He took the city of Adarak, and made it his capital in Ustalar. When his troops, or his enemies, fell in battle, he sprang back as undead, bolstering his armies once again. And so for 5 centuries, he grasped a vast kingdom in his hand, stretching it out, conquering. But this would not be his complete victory. This would lead to his end. For Taldor, the great empire to the south, heard of his great strength and his danger. So in 3750, approximately 500 years after he returned, after he had begun his reign of terror, Taldor launched the Shining Crusade against the Whispering Tyrant. They allied themselves with the dwarfs of the kingdom of Kragadan, which would become the Five Kings Mountains, and the Knights of Azur, another great force. And so in 3801, nearly 50 years later, after this great crusade began, they established the beast in the Slavic town of Velens, and began the slow and brutal process of advancing to Gallowspire, the heart of the capital of the Whispering Tyrant's empire. The great tower, Gallowspire, at the heart of his conquest. In 3818, 17 years later, they summon Arzani, Herald of Eredin, to aid them in the war. This is the show of that fight. But Arzani died, was felled by the witch. He killed her in 3823. There's more to her story. We'll have to tell that another day. But Arzani fell, a herald of Eredin. Finally, another 4 years later, 9 years after the launch of the Great Herald, 26 years after they landed in Ustalar and began the long march and great battle forward, they reached Gallowspire in the ruins of Anhart, made now also to necromancy. The Taldan general, Arasent, dueled Tar-Baphon. In his great duel, he used an artifact known as the Shield of Eredin. Tar-Baphon attempted to use his most powerful wish magic to crush and kill Armistead, but the Shield of Eredin and its powerful artifact magic was able to withstand this, but it caused the shield to shatter. Tar-Baphon was burned in holy fire. It weakened him and forced him to retreat to Gallowspire. The Crusaders tried to find his phylactery, but they couldn't. It has been allegedly hidden by Urgatha, so no one, not even the gods, could locate it and find a way to destroy it. they had not have the resources to truly invade and purge the Tower of Gallosfire. They could not. They managed to fight him all the way back to that, but it would be his ultimate fortress that they would have to dig down through constant battles and layers to get to the heart of his domain. The true core of his fortress. So instead, they activated a powerful ward magic and a prison known as the Great Seal. It was after that each branch of this alliance, responsible for defeating Tar-Baphon, dropping him into the depths of Gallosfire, and now sealing him away within it, was tasked with guarding 3 lesser seals that would be taken across Golarion and keep the Great Seal intact. As long as these 3 seals, lesser ones, remained, the Great Seal could not be broken. What would become last of all, the province of once Ustalav becoming an independent country, was established to watch Gallosfire and to ensure the Whispering Tyrant would not return. Now, as much as he's been defeated and imprisoned, Tar-Baphon is still perfectly able to exist within Gallosfire. He's awake, he's cognizant, he's studying, he has probably his massive library of arcane tomes, whatever else treasures he had there. It's the core of his being. He cannot escape, he cannot break it. But he could study. So the first thing was to get rid of the shard of the Shield of Eredin within him, now known as the Shattered Shield of Eredin. It was still lodged within himself. He had to remove it from him. It had burned him. It had led him to this defeat. But also he would delve into ways to use necromancy to break the Great Seal. A winter white seneschal of his, Joman Gildas, escaped. He began to realize the Great Seal could only be broken with positive energy. He found out he could use positive energy now, something that was very anathema to a lich, let alone someone with necromantic magic. But with the piece of the Shattered Shield in him, he could now wield radiant energy. And he created a super weapon known as the Radiant Fire. In 4708, his connections to the outside world, telepathic commanding with, of course, Yidis, he traveled to, and other minions. He had the necromancer Dragsmog destroy the first seal that kept him in prison. In 4717, he had Gildas travel to Vigil, and this is also related, but not related to destruction of the seals. He had the thieves steal all but one of the shards of the Shattered Shield and replace them with fakes. The mission was successful, but one of the thieves took a shard for themselves, having convinced the smith that they used to create the fakes to make one extra. So, the Shattered Shield was taken and split into 3 places. Some were in the hands of the Whispering Way, some were with Gildas, and, there was one left behind. Still all but one piece complete from the face. A year later, the second seal was discovered in Kaer Maga by agents of the Whispering Way. An assault into the Shrine of the seal was disabled by Orangatus with the help of Runelord Zutha's Bone Grimoire. I'll talk about an agent of the Whispering Way there, Orangatus, the Dampier. Anyway, 2 of the lesser seals are done. But in 4719, nearly 1,000 years, well, about 900 years, give or take, since his imprisonment, he finished Radiant Fire. It took him 900 years to develop his now manipulation of positive energy into a super weapon. He tested it on the town of Roselar's coffin. He then turned it on Vigil, triggering it, along with the shard of the shattered shield still remaining in the castle. He basically used that shard there as an amplified point. That's why he left one, so he could still connect his weapon with it. He needed those shards to use to connect the weapon, to make it more accurate, more powerful. He killed more than 8,000 people and destroyed the final seal in the prison, and the Great Seal was vulnerable. And so now, very easily, he fired Radiant Fire at Gallowspire, shattering the Great Seal and freeing himself. Last Wall, with its capital crushed, was broken. He gathered an army and crushed them. Last Wall was in the Great Lands. But now he had to gather a greater army, because he had a new idea. He would take over Absalom, enter the Starstone Cathedral, and use the Starstone to become a deity. He decided that this was the best way to desecrate the legacy of his old enemy Eredin, to follow in his path, and truly become a god. When the Cardlands outside Aslan, a group of adventurers, aka adventurers from the Time/Scrap Adventure Party, confronted him. He lost his patience, activated Radiant Fire to get rid of them. But he was unaware that their souls were lodged within shards of the shattered shield since his first use of Radiant Fire on Lossler's coffin. The shards unleashed the magical feedback against him, destroyed his body, foiled his plans for godhood, and got rid of his right hand and his piece of the shattered shield. So he no longer had the ability to use Radiant Fire. His super weapon that he had developed using positive energy against his enemies, and irony, was gone. And the area where he was defeated suffused with necromantic energy, becoming known as Chiron's Gaps. Now Tar-Baphon himself reformed. He's a lich. He relocated himself to Virlik, to his old headquarters on the Island of Terror. So he left behind where he was, Gallowspire, went to the Island of Terror. He attempted to recruit the orcs in 4719. They refused. They remembered what happened to their ancestors millennia before. He tried an armed army in the Battle of Nine Skulls. They won. He didn't think the orcs would unite against him. They did. The orcs of the Belkacin have been more united than they ever are because of Tar-Baphon. Ardax the Whitehair now leads the Hold. And the Hold is united on kicking his ass. And so, yeah, they have an enemy to fight. And it keeps them together, and it might unify them more into a nation than they've ever been. Also, their connections up with, the Iron Fang people might also help out, too, for the formation. Let's talk about some associates he has, briefly. And then we'll talk about a little bit about the Whispering Way, but we'll leave that home. But, currently, Tar-Baphon is mostly alone. He's perhaps in contact with a few of his great generals that he once ruled over Ustalav. But let me just list a few of them and who they are. Winterwife Desene basically escaped her master's reach. She was a former. Doesn't mean that she could not be pressed into service again by him, but she doesn't. Urim Hel, Lord of Mogs, is obsessed with basically Iomedae. Iomedae was at the Shining Crusade, and was defeated by her. Wants to get revenge on her. But sure, Tar-Baphon might be able to get him back. Elaminus, the elven vampire, was working to defeat the Great Seal. So certainly, if contacted by her great master, she might return to the elven vampire. Of course, the Seneschal, Gildanis, is free, but having broken free from Gallowspire for Tar-Baphon being out, what his fate is unknown. He did help out the band of adventurers. So, he wanted redemption. So, he might be actually an enemy of the Stasis. House Shura, a Marlith demon, service of him. Well, she could be called on. Usamar, a very influential member of the Whispering Way, the Lich Wolf, teaching many of the Whispering Way secrets of undeath, trying to help the Whispering Tyrant escape, could be once connected. Lythari, a child of Urgatha, once fought alongside the Whispering Tyrant, could be once called upon. Malleus, a powerful Kellid vampire lord, one of Whispering Tyrant's most trusted lieutenants. Since the defeat, he's been sleeping in his castle, but he knows his master's return. He might rush to his side. Arduris Virholt, the last king of Ustalav, last king of Virloth line, who resisted the Whispering Tyrant before. He was undead Travery, known as the Shrieking Sovereign. Now, will he be able to return it? The Skinless King, a ghoul sorcerer, who now is far away, but be called upon from the Midnight Mountains. Sirocco, a Lich Necromancer, the Butcher of Carrion Hill. He's been in hiding since the defeat by the Shining Crusade, but may be called upon once again by his overlord. And the Vitric Queen, a Jiskin Golem Crafter and Lich. She was once loosely associated with Tar-Baphon and assisted him in certain ways, especially in research and constructs and elementals. Perhaps she can be called upon. There are many who might be able to rise to Tar-Baphon's aid. But of course, there always is his cult that serves on his death cultist and necromancers, the Whispering Way. They are still active throughout the Inner Sea region. They have seen their lord and master be freed. It was one of their greatest ideals. But there are still many active members. They have seen some setbacks, such as some defeat of some high-ranking members during the defense of Carrion Crown. But many remain. And certainly speaking, he call upon the Whispering Way to his eyes and ears outside the Isle of Terror. I will have to do a video on them in the future. I will. But for now, I think we can call our video. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Tar-Baphon, the Whispering Tyrant. He is indeed a major villain there, and I'm pretty sure we will see more with him in the future. He can't sit around forever. When and where Paizo decides to use him again, it will be an interesting adventure. Certainly, with the current divine death that's going to happen, could lead to some new chance for divinity for Tar-Baphon. He is a step away from it. A mythic lich. A being of great power. A knowledge of the ancients. He dove into depths no other creature could. That's what makes him so dangerous. And the sheer fact that his phylactery is seemingly lost, gone, unfindable, means that he truly cannot be killed. Well, doesn't mean truly true. There could always be. Or maybe a quest to discover his lost phylactery. Who knows? There's a lot of questions on that one. But for now, he sits on his throne on the Isle of Terror, planning, connecting with his old allies, his old armies, his old forces, learning, understanding, and readying himself for the next plan. His call for divinity has been stopped for now. Perhaps it's not so easy to raise a great army. But his people that worked for him, certainly speaking, used subterfuge, stealth, and infiltration to get his weapons. Maybe perhaps a little bit of that. Subtlety might be the answer for now. He is highly intelligent and can change his plans. So, we leave Tar-Baphon, the Whispering Tyrant. So perhaps in the future, we can. But I thank you all for joining me today. That was a very fun video. I did want to talk about Tar-Baphon. I did think the characters like this are going to be really fun to talk about, and some other big topics that are a little different from the ones I've been doing in Pathfinder, the Golarion world, because these are major characters. Tar-Baphon, Whispering Tyrant, is a major character. He's very important to the lore, and certainly speaking, shows up in a lot of stuff. You can see the interconnectedness, the new hold of Beltis is connected with him. The Ustalav, what's going on there, is connected with him. The changes in Lastwall, connected with him. There's this big web of stuff going on that all relates to a lot of major characters like this and major things that goes on. So you kind of want to paint the entire picture. So we're going to do more videos like this. Remember, always just give some basic supports for wherever you're at, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch. If you're over on Twitch, follow would be good. Over on YouTube, like and subscribe and ring the bell. Leave a comment. Have you done any of the adventure paths that deal with him? Rise to the, Carrying Crown, Tyrant's Last Grass, anything like that, or dealt with anything related to Tar-Baphon or Whispering Way? I'm curious how many are out there. If you want to see Pathfinder stuff, catch me live on Thursday. That's my Pathfinder schedule days. But I do all these videos live on Twitch and then eventually put them up on YouTube a couple days later. I'll have a schedule for that up soon. I have social media link below, Twitch/X and Discord. Sorry, Twitter./X and Discord. I can say that every day. Yeah. I think that's everything. Ooh. Other tabletop stuff you might want to check out live. It does go up on YouTube. I just recommend you checking it out on YouTube. Crimson Queen, live play Pathfinder 1st Edition. Pretty good, pretty good. We are going through some difficult areas of the adventure path, but we're doing our best to get through it, and there's some really great things that we've done in that adventure, so I can recommend it overall. There's a lot of fun that we've had. And then discussing tabletop on Saturdays, where we talk about news of the week and deep discussions and talk again. Okay, everybody, I'm going to pop off. I'm going to go hang out with Twitch maybe a little bit more. We'll do another video. We'll see what we do today. But for now, I say to all of you out there, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. Join me for another video, and if there's any other topics you want me to talk about also too in the comments below. Like, give me suggestions for Pathfinder topics. I'm always up for this. Or other tabletop topics. Anyway, until that time, we talk again. I bid you a deep and wonderful farewell.